Welcome to a new episode of Wrestling with WorldWide Willis. I'm your host, Brandon, and this podcast is brought to you by the LMG Podcast Network. All right, folks, I am back from my hiatus. There could potentially be more hiatuses. We will shall see. Right, life happens. I got a lot of things I'm tossing around that I'm pause that I'm trying to figure out, and then I got a lot of side missions that I'm working on, but always tapped in on wrestling, always love it. So I'm excited to talk about it today. Um, all right, let's go ahead and talk about our matches of the week. Um, I really enjoyed the Penta versus Pete Dunne match on this latest episode of Raw. Really enjoyed that one. I thought it showcased Pete Dunne enough. You know what I mean? Obviously, the point of it was to showcase Penta. But I thought it showcased Pete Dunne is no slouch. Pete Dunne can go with anybody, and he's a really good competitor, right? So I thought it served both purposes, and it was just a fun match, right? You can tell those dudes have went against each other before, and it was hard hitting. It showed a lot of what Penta can do, how exciting he is to watch, and it showed how good of a like overall wrestler he is. Like, dude's amazing. He's really good at selling. He's really good at all different things, right? And his style is really versatile because he can do the high flying stuff, but he has some really cool like moves. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like flippy. Like he's a luchador, but people got to know, like, bro, dude is one of the nicest like package of moves out there by far. You know what I'm saying? And dude, and a lot of the stuff he does, you would not consider lucha libre or anything like that, right? He's very innovative. So shout out to Penta and Pete Dunne, put on a really good match. I thought on the latest episode of SmackDown, I thought Tiffany Stratton versus Bayley for the WWE Women's Championship. I thought that was really dope. I thought that was a really cool match, a really good title defense for Tiffany Stratton. You know what I mean? To go against Bayley, a quality Hall of Famer. I thought that was really, really good for her, especially her first title defense again. And I'm looking forward to her more title defenses for her because, again, man, Tiffany can go with anybody. She's one of the better wrestlers right now in the women's division, especially to be so young. And I just think that just keep feeding her quality opponents. Don't I mean she shouldn't just be squashing girls. Now sometimes that'll be the case, right? A personal challenger piss her off, she'll squash them. But for the most part, they need to be putting her in really good matches. The women's division is so deep on every brand to where she should be facing somebody a really good opponent or have really good programs with opponents. And whoever that may be next, right? Now that she's pretty much a face, right? A baby face. It'll be cool to see kind of who steps up to the plate as far as potentially heels that can step up and challenge her. So that'll be fun. But I thought that was a good match. Also, I thought Drew versus Seth on Raw was really fun for the main event. Um, it was hard hitting. It was obviously it wasn't going to be as good as a WrestleMania match, but it was a really good match, right? Them two just have great chemistry. It just flows, right? They're amazing in the ring together. This one ended in a surprising finish, but I think that kind of built into the storyline, right? And then also Sami Zayn coming out there, that added a different factor to it. That was dope. And just Drew saying to Seth, like, hey man, we were supposed to be working together. Like, we have common goals, but you just are so, stubborn and hard headed. And then that's when Sammy hit him with a haluka kick, unfortunately, on accident, which seems like Sammy's always hitting somebody with a haluka kick on accident. Like he's done it numerous times now. So you got to get that down. You got to get his target practice down. Whatever he needs to do, he needs to get that down. All right, now let's get into the news, the topics, the main things we want to talk about. All right, I mainly want to touch on this. I want to get this out the way first. I'm really excited about the TNA and WWE partnership. Vince would never. I think we all know that this would never happen in the Vince McMahon led WWE. But the fact that TKO, Triple H, Nick Khan, everybody involved with WWE understands how much of an opportunity this is, how much this is helping not only WWE, right? WWE benefits from this, but it really helps TNA and helps the wrestling community, right? More people who have never gotten that amount of eyes on them are now going to get that. Whether they only show up in NXT, right? It could be where none of these people from TNA show up on the main roster. That could possibly be true. But if they only show up on NXT, that's still a win. That's still a win. Like NXT is one of the hottest brands, right? With Shawn Michaels and everything going on over there. So like Joe Hendry went over there cooking. He was already cooking before. I want to give him his credit for what he did in TNA, but he was already cooking. Went over to NXT, got way more eyeballs on him, and he didn't get like I think he gained a lot of respect with the casual viewer, right? They saw the star power. A lot of my friends who aren't necessarily tapped into like the non WWE side of wrestling, they saw him and was like, oh yeah, I like him. Like he's dope. They sing his theme song, you know what I mean? All that stuff, really fun stuff. So I think the partnership is amazing. I think it's extremely smart for both sides. I think TNA, they can pitch new talented men and women that they have on their roster. They can showcase their title belts on the NXT brand or these other brands, and that builds up hype for then going back to TNA, right? Jordan Grace, right? Perfect example. Jordan Grace showed up in the Women's Royal Rumble last year. I think even the year before, 2023, I want to say. Showed up in 2023, had a really good showing. It might have been 23, 24. I'm trying to kind of forget my years here. But either way, she showed up in the Royal Rumble, had an amazing showing. She was the women's champion for TNA. And then gained a lot of support, had an amazing reaction to her. Then she shows up on NXT a couple of weeks, has great reactions. So then now some fans followed her over to TNA, start discovering their women's division, started watching them on a regular basis, right? Like that's a win for TNA. For WWE, this is an amazing opportunity. First of all, I get to showcase people who I potentially think could be on my brand down the road, right? Joe Hendry, for example. Joe Hendry's the world champ of TNA right now. He just became the world champ on this past weekend at TNA Genesis. However, he's like, bro, when that music gonna hit during the Royal Rumble. Like it's gonna hit. And like he's gonna be amazing, right? It's gonna be a great moment. But you don't have that great moment if you don't have this partnership. If you don't have, you know what I'm saying? Like that just doesn't happen. The reaction, the type of viral moment you're gonna have that the WWE is gonna benefit from with socials and all that stuff. You don't have that if you don't have this partnership. Same thing, Jordan Grace. Same thing with plenty of other people. I'm sure there's other TNA women who are going to show up in the women's Royal Rumble. I'm sure of it, right? So it's just a great partnership all around. It's a beautiful thing for wrestling in general. I just want to celebrate WWE for being humble and aware enough to realize that other pro wrestling companies exist, and the health of those companies is a good thing. Like when those companies are healthy, it's a good thing for WWE, right? WWE, if I'm a WWE scout, I don't have to go and do all kind of crazy stuff to go find a good wrestler. I can just turn on television, watch an AEW show, watch a TNA, watch a Noah, watch a Evolve, watch a New Japan, right? I can Ring of Honor. I can watch all these things and locate a prospect that I really like, check out what his contract status is, whatever, and then put him on my list of prospects I want to talk to or want to potentially get, who I think will be a star in WWE. Like it's a good thing when right now the pro wrestling industry is extremely healthy. And that's a great thing. Like that wasn't always the case, right? Especially like early 2010s, even late 2010. Well, I say late, but it kind of that's when it was kind of trending up. But like late 2000s, early 2010s, it wasn't great, right? There was some TNA had a little run here. You know what I'm saying? Ring of Honor had a little spike, but again, it's not as healthy as it is now. Now it's like making a lot of money. There was always stars coming from it, but now they're making some money, which is good. So again, I just want to celebrate both companies for doing this. I think there's more partnerships along coming down the pike. I think WWE is definitely going to make a move in Japan. I don't know who they're going to make the partnership with, but they are definitely going to make that partnership with a Japan company. I'd also heard that there's a United Japan Pro Wrestling sort of entity that's happening in Japan with Noah, with New Japan, with all these other, promotions in Japan. I heard they're like either getting together or they're forming like a NATO type of situation. Like we'll see, right? But WWE is smart enough to get their hands in there, bro. Like they do not want AEW taking the best talent from Japan, right? They just WWE has done so much work in investing in Japan the past decade with Asuka, with Shinsuke, with Io, with so many different wrestlers. They know that's where an amazing market that's barely been tapped into as far as WWE is concerned. Like if they tap into that market as well, like it's up. It's really up for the rest of these promotions. But again, just the nerd in me, I'm just so excited for this because I just think it's so much potential both ways. And I love that most importantly, it benefits both companies. This isn't WWE taking advantage of a smaller company. No, this is WWE saying, hey, we want to help you. You're going to help us. We think we can benefit from this, but we want to help you as well. You know what I mean? We both can eat off this. So I think it's a beautiful thing. I do think that Jordan Grace is done in TNA now, and I think her contract's up. I think she's now going to WWE, potentially NXT, potentially main roster, whichever. Um, Great for her. I'm happy for her. She's going to be a superstar no matter what. So I'm excited to see her. It'd be dope if she went to NXT just because she could go against Julia and Stephanie Vicar and like Roxanne and all these amazing other wrestlers. Like that'd be dope. But if she was a main roster, wouldn't be mad at that either because they need a little more juice, right? I feel like the women's main roster, there's like some top tier women, but they haven't. They're moving. They're slowly, the Lyra Valkyria, the Tiffany Strattons. They're pushing up that latest class of NXT women, and so I think they're giving them some time to settle in, and then boom, we got another group coming. Boom, we got another group coming. You know what I'm saying? So I'm excited for that. But again, super excited for this. All right, let's talk about what we got going on, right? Um, I want to talk about LA Knight real quick. It still doesn't make sense why Shinsuke beat him for the title, for the US championship. I was talking to Roy recently about this, friend of the pod, and we were just talking about how like it's the US title is kind of forgettable now, right? Like, and why did they have Shinsuke beat Andrade? Like, it just made no sense. Andrade was cooking, Carmelo was cooking, LA Knight was cooking. That trio was cooking together, and then they threw Shinsuke in it, and now it just feels like the heat ain't on no more. And it just seems like the U.S. title can go kind of like it did with Logan Paul. It can go weeks without getting showcased on SmackDown, which is why they took it off of Logan Paul and put it on LA Knight. I get it. You're trying to push LA Knight forward, but I don't think it's time yet, right? Like Logan Paul isn't challenging Cody yet. Or yeah, he's not challenging Cody yet. And he's definitely not going to challenge him before Royal Rumble. At least I don't think. Now he could challenge him at Elimination Chamber or something. Who knows? And I could see Cody, LA Knight. I could see a situation where they do an Elimination Chamber match and LA Knight's in it. He has to be in it, right? But I just feel like until that point, we don't need to have LA Knight give up the title yet. Let LA Knight defend it at Royal Rumble, or let him defend it at one of these Saturday night main events, whichever, right? But you have the title on the show. I just think it was a bad decision. It was an ill-timed decision. I think LA Knight will be fine, but I just thought the U.S. title and him kind of fit, right? Like the U.S. title's always been kind of the entertainer's title, right? The U.S. title's never been really a true, pro wrestlers title. That's what the Intercontinental title's for. The U.S. title's always been the entertainer's title, right? That title goes to the guy who's hot with the crowd, who's who's, you know what I mean, who's cooking with the crowd, who has a great theme, all these different things, is entertaining, good on the mic, all that stuff. I just think you should have let LA Knight cook with that some more because the rivalry he was building with the mid card on SmackDown was cooking. You've now totally put ice on that. And you got Shinsuke, who we all know in 2025 has no business beating Andrade, Carmelo, or LA Knight. Like, straight up. In 2025, a 2025 version of Shinsuke Nakamura has no business uh, defeating any of those three or any one of three of those caliber wrestlers. It just shouldn't happen. So that's kind of frustrating. And I sort of understand I understand what Triple H is doing. He's trying to. We're gonna have a PLE in Japan soon, right? Or later next year or later this year. I can't remember. And I think he's trying to push for that. And I get it, but you kind of gotta understand like what's hot, right? Come on, EO, Shinsuke doesn't need a title to be hot when you go over to Japan, right? You just need Shinsuke there. EO Sky is the star. Boost, put the battery in her back. You know, strap a rocket to her. You know what I mean? I don't think people care about like people. Okay, Shinsuke, cool. I'd much rather watch EO wrestle 10 times over. But yeah, just the LA Knight thing, and I'm cool with him being in a beef with the Bloodline. I think it keeps it relevant. All these things, I'm cool with that. But I do think that could have been an opportunity where Jacob Fatu challenges him for a title. Jacob Fatu doesn't have to necessarily win. Jacob Fatu could lose due to disqualification because he just starts wilding out. You know, who knows? But I just think that was an opportunity that was missed a little bit. LA Knight and Fatu, like that's a perfect match. You got a monster, a dude who's a psycho versus a slick talker entertainer. Like that's a cool little mashup. You know what I'm saying? So, but whatever. What do I know? What do I know? Okay, now let's talk about some side things, and then we'll talk about a lot going on with the Saturday main event storylines. We still have the Bianca, Naomi, Jade, you know, thing we got going there on drama. I think they're dragging it on a little bit. And I think they're probably gonna drag it until we get closer to Rumble or a little bit after Rumble, which is okay. But I just think you kind of got to give us a little clearer signs, like not even clearer signs, but give us a little. Ooh, okay, Naomi's acting weird this week. Ooh, okay, Bianca's acting weird this week. Ooh, wait, is it such and such? Like, they're not even really giving us a ton to mess with, to play with, right? Like, they're kind of just being like, Naomi's like, yeah, he said he was going to do something. Yeah, I don't know. Like, there's no character moments, or I feel like the writing hasn't been good enough. Not necessarily the wrestlers or their performances, but I think the writing has been a little lackluster in this situation. Like, this could have been a like woven in type of situation where those investigation shows or those conspiracy theory shows where there's a board and they got lines going everywhere and theories and papers everywhere and pictures uh dotted against the wall because people are drawing lines to, okay, he's connected to him. Like, it could have been one of those situations where we're really dove in and under really caring about who attacked Jade. I feel like people kind of care. They're curious, but the writing hasn't drawn us in all the way. I think the writing could have been a little better to get it to where people are like, oh snap, like there's a new character every week where we're like, wait, did they do it? Like, you know what I'm saying? What they said right there was a little sus. They haven't done that. And I think they could do a better job of that with that whole drama. I do want to show some love to Metaphor, the faction, specifically Jakar Jackson and Lash Legend as a tag team. I think those two have gotten so much better in the ring, so much better. Like the match they had with Alba Fire and I always forget my girl name, but Unholy Union, the tag team, really good match. And I love the transition at the end. Go check out the NXT highlights of last week. Go check out the NXT highlights of last week and go check out that finish of that tag team match. Amazing transition. Some people will say, oh, that's not that. It's like, whatever. It wasn't that crazy. I thought it was really good and really creative. Like whoever produced that match, really good. I don't know who set up that finish, really good. Like Alba Fire was about to hit her finish, then Last Legend hit the big boot on the other partner, did a little roll up, and then immediately she ends up with Last Legend. Jakar runs against the ropes, hit her with a cutter. It was just a beautiful transition, really cool. You could tell the crowd was even like, "Ooh!" Like the crowd got hyped due to the transition. You know what I'm saying? And so I think again the crowd's getting more respect for these two, and that match was for the number one contender. Whoever won would be the number one contender for the women's tag team titles. I love that these two won. I thought they had some really good matches when they did get called up to SmackDown or the main roster when they was challenging, Bianca and Jade or whoever they were challenging. I thought they had really good matches. So I'm excited to see wherever they show up on the main roster. I'm hoping that they get a shot against I'm hoping Lash and Jakar get a shot against Bianca and Naomi potentially next SmackDown. You know what I'm saying? Like that would be dope. Because again, I just think these two. I've always liked Lash Legend. I've always liked her. She was just raw, right? She played college basketball. She wasn't a pro wrestler coming out. Neither was Jakara. But I think both are getting better in the ring, and specifically better at being a tag team. Like it's hard to learn a new sport, and then you learn a new sport by yourself, and then in the meantime, they tell you learn this new sport, but also you got this other little segment of the sport that you're learning that's really hard to learn as well, which is tag team wrestling, which is its own science in itself, right? Like, so that's hard to do. But I thought both have handled it really well. And I thought, again, both are improving at a really good rate. And I think those two, and I think Metaphor in general, need more time on either NXT, potentially the main roster. Like I wouldn't be mad because I think that group brings something a little funky, brings something a little cool to the show, right? Think about it. Like we really don't have a trendy faction right now, right? Like Metaphor is kind of like they're obviously hip hop inspired, but they're not over the top with it, right? They're just themselves who are then hip hop inspired, really trendy, really cool. They carry themselves. Also, their theme music their interest is amazing, right? So I think we don't have that right now. Like in SmackDown, we really all our factions are really just the bloodline, American made. Like I'm sorry, they're on Raw, but like we really don't have a trendy one. Even on Raw, Judgment Day, American made. Like we don't have a trendy, hip hop inspired, social media led type of team yet. So I think Metaphor could really add a little juice to the faction game. And again, Lash Legend could compete for a world championship, women's world championship. I could easily see that, So again, and I remember she had a great match it was like late last year. She had a great individual match with, I think it was Piper Niven. Yeah, she had a really good match for her. Like people were talking about it on Twitter and everything. So again, shout out to those two. I think those two are doing a great job. Excited to see them. Now, I will say I am excited, and I've said this for a minute now. I'm excited to see Dom Mysterio start to me. I love a shake hands, kiss babies type of character who kind of had a hand in a little bit of everything. Let me slip a little paper. Oh, you need some help? Yeah, yeah, Chad Gabe, I'll help you out a little bit. Okay. Okay. Finn's hurt. Okay. All right. You know what? Let me take the reins. I'll sub in for him. We can go try to win these tag titles. Just having his hands in different things. I like that. Dom is a good enough character, smart, funny, and has that type of heat as a villain to where he can do that, right? And I'm excited for him to sort of take the reins, and I do like the fact that they kind of wrote Finn off the show because it sounds like in 2025 they want Finn to come back as Finn, not necessarily as this Judgment Day version, but like the Finn Balor we know, right? And so cool, he can move on. Finn can do his thing outside the Judgment Day, but I'm excited to see Dom step up as the leader, as the guy of Judgment Day, and lead it, and not some like, well, we don't have leaders. No, have Dom as the leader. Best factions always have a leader. Like that's just all the way it's always been. Have a leader, then he can start to do his thing. And I think it opens up the opportunity to add another member, right? Add somebody who needs a little help. Add a young guy who you think is good enough in the ring in one aspect or another. Bring him on into the faction, and don't have him do this whole JD McDonough BS where he just takes bumps all day and is no longer taken serious. No, bring somebody who's a heavy hitter. You got to replace Finn or Damian Priest. Like you got to get a heavy hitter in there. So it'd be dope if they got that done. So again, really excited for Dom's future. I really like what they're doing, Roxanne and Bailey. Roxanne Perez on NXT. Bailey came out there, showed up, came back home. That was dope to see Bailey get the type of love because she's one of the goats of NXT. And it was dope to see her get that type of love, but also her kind of call out Roxanne and say like, "Hey, I was a women's champion here. Like, um, I don't like your attitude." Just came at her different, and I just like that they're having Roxanne show up each week on the main roster on SmackDown, show up and like continue the beef, right? Like it's continuation from show to show, whether it's NXT, SmackDown, whatever. And so I'm excited. And they even in Bailey's match against Nia Jax recently on Raw, Roxanne Perez was there, right? So it's very natural to where if they said Roxanne's on the main roster now, you would be shocked, obviously, because she's the NXT champion, women's NXT champion. But as far as like story wise, what she's doing with Bailey, it makes sense, right? So, um, yeah, I think those two are doing great stuff. Hopefully, we can get a Roxanne Bailey like NXT PLE match. That'd be dope. Like if we got, I don't know what the next NXT PLE is, but maybe after Royal Rumble where Bailey loses or whatever, doesn't win the Royal Rumble, she can challenge Roxanne Perez for the NXT Women's Championship at a PLE. That'd be dope. Like that'd be maybe not stand and deliver. I wouldn't do stand and deliver because I think that's kind of should be saved for potentially a bigger, not a bigger match, but like you know, she should be going against somebody who is on NXT in the NXT Women's Division and who could potentially take it from her and hold the baton, right? Stephanie Vacar, Julie, or I'm sorry, she's not even champion anymore. Julie is a champion. So just having Bailey and Roxanne just fight on an NXT PLE, obviously non-title match, that's dope. Like to me, that's really smart because they really got to settle their beef. It doesn't hurt Bailey at all. And then you still have the women's title being fought for with Julia and whoever she's facing. So I think that's really, really good stuff there. All right, let's talk about Saturday night main event stuff. Um, I'm really liking what Jacob Fatu is doing. I like that he's kind of not branching out from the bloodline. Obviously, he's still associated. We don't know what Solo's doing. I don't know. He walked out. I don't know what to make of that, to be honest. So I'm not going to comment on it too much. I didn't love the move, but also Solo just ain't the greatest on the mic. So him explaining what he's going to do after losing to Roman doesn't really make sense. I'd rather him just either stay away for a little bit. That would make more sense to me. That'll have more of an effect than him coming out there and trying to explain things. But I do like Fatu. Jake Fatu's getting more love on the mic, getting more time on the mic. I like that he's kind of facing off against Braun Strowman. We're going to get that at Saturday night main event. That's going to be fun. Just to see, Fatu against somebody equal or bigger size, that's going to be fun. And just in a singles match. We haven't gotten many Jacob Fatu singles matches. So that'll be dope. And again, I just think Fatu is going to win, I think. But I do like that he's going up against Braun. And I think Braun's look good, man. Like, shout out to Braun Breaker. Like, my dude's been cooking. I ain't going to say he's cooking, but I've liked Braun Breaker since he first got there. I remember when he first got there and he was monster among men. It was, him and I'll never forget that match with him, Samoa Joe, Brock Lesnar, and Roman Reigns. That's one of my favorite four-way matches I've ever seen. Like I think it was at Great Balls of Fire or something or no, it wasn't Great Balls of Fire. It was either SummerSlam, I can't remember, but somebody can look it up. But great match. That was one of the best like big man matches I've ever seen. But I like Braun Breaker. He's obviously older now, kind of past his prime, but does the job, right? Does the job. And he's had some really good feuds. Like shout out to him. Like if he can make this another good feud, he had a really good feud with Brunson Reed, and now if he can make another good feud with Jacob Fatu, shout out to him. That's a good time. That's worth the investment of WWE made in bringing him back. So excited for that match, Saturday night main event. Jay versus Gunther for the world title. I think it's funny. I haven't been on Twitter, on like wrestling Twitter that much lately, but I can only imagine people being like, this is the time. This is the time. Jay's the hottest thing in the world right now. Just have him beat Gunther. Have him beat Gunther. And I'm just thinking about like these people are so like moment to moment. They let anything sway them. And it's like they don't think 3 months down the line. They don't think a year down the line. They don't think it. They just think from Monday to Monday, from Friday to Friday, from Tuesday to Tuesday, from you know what I mean, Saturday to Saturday. Like that's all they think about. And it's just like, dude, come on, dog. Like I love Jay. Love Jay. He's hot. Hot as fish grease right now. He should not be Gunther. And I trust the WWE to make the right decision here. They've done it before when Roman, they didn't have Sammy beat him. They didn't have LA Knight beat him. They didn't have, you know, Jay beat him. They didn't have any these people who were just hot, not for a moment, but you know, who were having a really hot, trendy moment. They didn't react to that. They had the future plans set in place. And that's the way they should be here, right? Like I really love Jay, but Gunther should beat the dog out of him. It should be a good match. Like Jay's good enough in the ring where it should be a very, very good match. I don't know about match of the year contender, but it should be a damn near a 4-star at least to me to make it worth it. It should be a 4-star match, but Gunther should come out with the victory. It's plain and simple. Like, come on now, we got bigger fish to fry. No offense to Jay Uso, but Gunther got bigger fish to fry at WrestleMania. Then we did see Nia Jax. Obviously, Nia Jax beat Bayley, and I think she became the number one contender. I didn't get all the details there, but I think that match was for number one contender. But because Bayley just came over to Raw now officially, for those that didn't know. But yeah, we get Rhea Ripley versus Nia Jax. You know, Nia's I will say it's better than what it used to be. Like it used to be like if a Nia Jax was in a match, you were like, this is gonna be trash. Now it's like, hey man, this could be good. It could be trash. It could still very much be trash due to her botching ability. However, it could be a banger. Like she's had some bangers with Naomi in the last like 4 months. You know what I mean? She's had bangers with Bianca and a couple others. Like it could very easily be a banger. We're not sure. The size equal. So I want to say the last time they went against each other was either Queen. It wasn't Queen of the Ring. It was Night of Champions. I want to say, and they went up against each other, and it was a solid match. Solid. So I'm expecting solid here. I ain't gonna necessarily get my hopes up for like some amazing barn burner, but no banger after banger, not going to be that. But I do think it'd be a quality match. And I did like the little brawl they had on Raw. I thought that was really cool. I thought that was a really good. They usually women's brawls are usually kind of trash. I'm gonna be honest because they break them up too much. They don't let them go after, but they let them get busy, even in the ring and outside the ring. And so I was glad about that. But I think Rhea wins, but I hope it's a really good match. And hopefully, I am interested who Rhea's going to face next. I'm wondering if they're going to do. So I could definitely see it being. Usually, what happens is the bigger title, whoever's the bigger champion, right? So in this case, we got Tiffany Stratton's the women's champion on SmackDown. We got Rhea on the women's champion on Raw. Obviously, Rhea's the bigger star, right? So usually what they do is have Royal Rumble settle, like whoever wins Royal Rumble will challenge Rhea because she's the bigger star, and the Elimination Chamber will be used to settle who's going to be the number one contender for the second star, right? So for Tiffany Stratton, her number one contender will most likely come from Elimination Chamber. Rhea's number one contender will be, figured out through the Royal Rumble. That's at least how it usually works. So I'm thinking that's how it's going to work here. Because I was questioning, like, man, who is Rhea going to face at Mania? Like, it can't be Becky. It can't be Bianca because it just doesn't make sense. That Bianca and Rhea should be a year-long feud or like months-long feud leading into WrestleMania. Like that'll be one of the bigger WrestleMania women's matches of all time when done right. So it should not be rushed and be a that type of situation or a Royal. Like I don't even want Bianca to win the Royal Rumble just because I think that's too short of a window from Royal Rumble to Mania for them to build that story. That story has a lot of layers, a lot of layers. So I want them to have time to build that. So I am interested who they're going to have challenge her. That'll be interesting. So Tiffany, same thing. So, but I do think Rhea comes out on top against Nia Jax here. Then we have Sheamus versus Braun Breaker for the Intercontinental title. You know this is gonna be a banger. Like you know it, right? Like it's gonna be hard hitting. It's gonna be bruises and all kind of collisions. It's gonna be crazy. Like they're gonna get after it. And I was watching the interview. I forgot it was Chris Van Fleet. I think was interviewing Sheamus somebody, and I love the way Sheamus said it. He basically explained like his stiff style. And to be honest, I know this sounds bad. I know I'm not politically correct in saying this, but I think women's wrestlers coming up should listen to what he said, right? And I get probably WWE teaches these women this style of stay safe, don't don't go too rough, right? Where I feel like with the men, I've said it for years now, the men kind of lay it on stiff and the other person understands, hey, you're laying it on stiff for the effect. I get it. No harm, you know, no blood, no foul. But I'm also going to be stiff. And essentially what Sheamus was saying was like, hey, man, when we get in this ring, like, I'm going to beat you up. Like, I'm going to beat you up. However, I want you to give it back. Like, I want you to beat me up. And I think that's what made him and Gunther such perfect partners, is because Gunther's like, you're gonna go stiff, brother. That's the only way I know, right? So they were like a beautiful mesh together. Where I feel like in women's wrestling, and this isn't every promotion, because I know in New Japan they're stiff. I know in other promotions they're pretty stiff, but I feel like in WWE and it's in AEW too, but mainly I'm talking about WWE. I think I ain't gonna say every woman because there are women out there who are not like this, but like your normal women on the roster who you could just name randomly, for the most part, they're not stiff at all. And these Japanese women are the Japanese wrestlers. They're stiff because that's how they were taught. That's how they were trained in the dojo to be stiff, right? Where I feel like we need a little more stiffness in women's wrestling. Ain't nothing wrong with it. Like if if you can explain, hey, I hit you with a forearm that was nasty, and hey, it's a part of the game. Hit me back, just as hard, right? So I just think it was really interesting hearing Sheamus kind of articulate his wrestling style. Where we kind of always knew Sheamus likes stiff matches just because he just likes beating people up and likes getting in brawls. But that was like my first time hearing him like explain it in depth and saying like, "Hey, I like that's the style of wrestling I've always liked, and that's the style of wrestling." He was just basically saying like that I want to produce, that I want to be a part of is hard hitting, makes you feel a little even uncomfortable. It feels like a brawl is happening and not necessarily some cutesy wrestling match where just like no impact really, no violence really. So shout out to Sheamus for that. I think him and Braun Breaker are definitely going to be violent for sure. Furniture's going to move in that one. And then we have the Cody KO contract signing. I do like this rivalry. I've said it before. I think it's smart. It's so far KO's played it perfectly. I did love that he came out and was basically like put it on Sammy and was like kind of reverse engineered it. Was like, hey, Sammy, I'm going against Cody at Royal Rumble in this ladder match. Cool, cool. Hey, it seems like the formula is if Sammy has a friend, he helps them, right? With Roman, with Seth, with Jay, with Jimmy, right? You've helped all these people. Hey, I'm here. I'm your best friend. I'm literally like your brother almost. We came in this game together from the same area. Help me, right? You're gonna help me, of course, right? You're my friend. He was basically like reverse engineering it on him and putting it back on him, and it was smart. Like it was extremely smart. Like, yeah, Sam, if you are a friend, you literally helped Roman Reigns get his tribal chief Ulafala back, even though he like consistently was violent towards you, consistently betrayed you, consistently questioned your loyalty, all these different things, and like threw you out of the bloodline essentially. So yeah, I love how KO turned it back on Sammy and put the responsibility on Sammy to help him in that match. So you have a feeling Sammy's going to get involved. It's just, is he going to help? Is he going to accidentally help? Is he going to not help and deter KO from defending his title? I'm doing air quotes, defending his title. We'll see. We'll see. But I do think that signing is going to go how we all know it's going to go. It's going to be a brawl. Tables are going to get flipped. I love to do an over under how many seconds that table sits there and before someone flips it over and start brawling or put somebody through it. We'll see. But yeah, man, I think again, a lot of great things are happening right now. That TNA WWE stuff has me hype. I think NXT's cooking. Love Obafemi. Shout out Obafemi being an NXT Men's Champion. I haven't been able to hit on that since I've been away, but love that. I think now he's the star to help that men's division, go back to what it used to be. They definitely need to add some more talent down there. Maybe even drop some talent from the main roster down there to help out. But yeah, a lot of great things going on Raw and SmackDown. Excited for the Saturday night main event, and really, really excited for the Royal Rumble. So we'll do some preview episode for Royal Rumble and touch on who we think will win, why we think it'll win, and how we would book it and all these things. So we'll touch on that. But outside of that, really fun week of wrestling. If you have any thoughts or anything you want to talk about, anything you saw that you want to comment on, hit me up in the Facebook group or on Instagram, on X. Hit us up at the League of Melanated Gentlemen podcast. Hit us up and love to talk about it. And I post stuff in our Facebook group all the time, and we discuss things. So always excited to do that. But until next time, we out. Yeah.